But anyway, the talk for today is going to be your designs need more work. And I was talking about design is one of these things that it's very personal to people, and it's very important to me as a furniture builder and a furniture cabinet maker and someone that sells furniture all year long, not only custom furniture but production line furniture, right? And have sold tens of thousands of vintage pieces. Over the years, we've curated a collection of furniture that put our business kind of on the map. And over the years of seeing all this furniture and then making things, modifying things, we started to build our own furniture, probably based on seeing those tens of thousands of vintage pieces of furniture over the years. And we've just turned this thing into where we have a really identifiable aesthetic, might be how I put it, So the designs that we create for our furniture are very well known, and for the most part, they're pretty successful. And I don't know if they're necessarily palatable to people, but enough people like them that we have a business, right? And that's what we have here. We got a furniture company here in St. Louis, Missouri. It's a good furniture company. We do about 500 pieces a year, and it's a fantastic, it's a low seven-figure business, and it's a middle-class living. Probably not going to get rich doing this stuff, and it's a lot of work. But we put a lot of heart and soul into the design of our furniture. And I'm going to talk about that today and kind of talk about why design is kind of in trouble, at least from my perspective. And I'll talk about how I design things, the thought process that goes into creating furniture for us here at the Resplendent Crow. So anyway, my name is Eric Wilkin. I own the Resplendent Crow here in St. Louis, Missouri. We're a small furniture company. We do, like I said, 500 pieces a year. It's a small, like I said, we got 7-8 employees here. I get to work with my wife, which is really nice. And most of my employees have been with me for 5 years or longer. And people really like working here. It's a good place to work, and it's not the nicest facility in the world, but it's home. It works for us. Everyone enjoys being here, and I think it's a fantastic place to work, and people seem to really enjoy it. So we started out just selling vintage furniture. We did that for years, and then we started modifying vintage furniture. Adding drawers where there were doors and doors where there were drawers, adding height to cabinets. Growing cabinets, making new drawers. Making new fretwork, legs, feet, all kinds of things. And we did the stuff to furniture for the last, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years. And then we started making our own furniture. People would start asking us can you make a faux bamboo dresser, right? And we'd be like, sure. Can you make a faux bamboo china cabinet? Can you build, something that's like a Mastercraft piece of furniture, something that's like a Henry-Don dresser? And we just say, yeah, we can build all this stuff. And so we started making more and more furniture. And it just turned into where we really started to come up with a style that was all of our own. And while it was a lot of work to make the wrong thing and to make things that weren't necessarily what other people liked, eventually we kind of developed a style, and our customers and truthfully Instagram kind of pushed us in the direction that we needed to go. And so we kind of developed a style for design. So, okay, we got people coming in here. Hello, good to see everyone. What would you recommend a beginner to make after a spoon? After a spoon, holy heck. I'll get to you in a second. Ask me that question again here. I'm going to go through my spiel about design, and then we'll jump into questions and stuff like that. So, a spoon. That's an interesting one. Okay, so again, the design side of things. Truth is that what's going on today with design, at least in my opinion, is that not enough people have lived, and not enough people have been to other countries, seen other cultures, just like made stuff that didn't work, started things, stopped things. The chaos of fabricating and making things really helps you to become a good designer. And the truth is that today, I think too many people are designing things that have never built them, right? People that, design automobiles have never, built a car. A lot of them don't even really know how to work on cars. They just went to school for all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just created kind of a homogenized look when it comes to furniture. And this is my opinion. Hello, everyone. Guys, hit the like button. We'll kick this algorithm around. We'll get more people coming in and listen to this content about furniture making. But design, and let me know if you guys agree what your design styles are, what you like in design, what kind of things are important to you when it comes to designing, whatever it is you design. But what I'm seeing is that too many people are just going to school for design as opposed to making things. And I think that here at the Resplendent Crow, the reason our furniture is kind of beloved is because we have made so much stuff over the years and so much of it has failed, right? And that's just kind of led us to where we'll take an element from something that failed and we'll put it into the next project and see if that element works in the next piece of furniture. And we've done this so many times till eventually we get a piece of furniture that people really like. And I'll go through a couple of pieces of furniture real quick and I'll let you guys know exactly what worked and what didn't for us. So a lot of people like to make like credenzas, which are kind of just boxy pieces of furniture. Generally, they're going to have doors. They might have a drawer or two, but they're just meant basically to store things, mostly in dining rooms and maybe living rooms. But point is that what we did for ours is we saw that a lot of people were just making all kinds of credenzas, but what they would do is they would create some kind of funky pattern that went across all 4 doors, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and that design was some kind of wave or a picture or a pattern that just kind of went all over everything. All of it kind of looked the same, to be honest with you. I mean, it looked like it came out of a picture and someone just put that picture on a CNC router and then just started carving it out. And it all just looked programmed, So what we did is we created something called our Zane credenza, which is literally just, it's the simplest thing in the world. It's just a piece of, a 2-inch rail, 2-inch style, and basic stuff, 3/4 inch thick. But what we did is we just added basically, a chamfer onto it, right? So we just chamfered that little piece of material, I don't know, it's probably 15 degrees, and we put that on every door, right? So it didn't look like everything was exactly the same, like it was supposed to kind of work together. It was just 5 doors that were exactly the same. That style just sold like hotcakes. I've sold that piece of furniture for 5 years now, and I probably sell 50 to 75 of those things a year at an average of about $5,000 a pop. So that one piece of furniture with its simple design has become a bread and butter cabinet for me. And it wasn't some crazy design idea. It was just looking at what the market was doing and then just trying to do something just a little bit different, because again, everyone was making the same thing. Okay. So another thing that we did when it came to there's a lot of people that sell vanities, right? Vanities are real popular. They sell for a lot of money and it's a great way to make money. We were known for doing a lot of faux bamboo furniture. We would paint a ton of vintage faux bamboo furniture, and then I just started making it, right? And so then we decided, well, people need vanities. We get asked to turn antique dressers and chests into vanities. Why don't we just make a faux bamboo vanity that's built with the intent of it? So we took a popular design, which is the Henry Link style faux bamboo furniture, and we just designed our own vanity around that, right? And we took, certain elements from Henry Link and a couple from like Dixie and these different companies that dabbled in faux bamboo, and we created a popular powder room vanity. And that idea turned into, again, where we're selling like 50 of those things a year, and those sell for an average of $3,000 to $4,000 a piece. And again, it's a bread and butter piece of furniture. But what we did is we took the thing that was selling, right, whether it was faux bamboo or this Zane style, and then we started making other pieces of furniture within the same line using those design aesthetics, and same thing with our hardware, right? So we used to buy a lot of hardware, and there was a company called Modern Matter who we really liked. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I'm ranting away here. I'm going to look at my comments real quick and I'm going to keep going. Like I said, I'm not going to rant too long and I'll go through comments. Let's see, we got RFS in here. We got Leonidas RL. Good to see you. Mike's in here. Mike, good to see you, man. We got Paul Thomas. All right, Paul's back in here. Good to see you, bud. Talking about design today and kind of what's happened with design as far as with anything. But I was just giving a few examples of what it is that I design and the things that turned into what were the important cabinets for me, the ones that make me the money, right? And when you have cabinets that make money, that has a design that people really like, that allows you to then go make other kinds of things and try other ideas, right? So I've got I was talking about my faux bamboo vanity and the aesthetics, the links to Henry Link, the company, to Dixie, a little bit, maybe Thomasville in there. And anyway, the point is that led to other styles of furniture. I'm selling a pagoda china cabinet now, which is also of the Henry Link style. We do dressers, we do all kinds of things. And that style is not super popular, but the thing is that nobody makes it. So with the people that it is popular with, there aren't a lot of options. So that style was really important to us. And it's really been the thing that has allowed us to kind of grow this company because, again, nobody wants to deal with a pain in the ass that it takes to make faux bamboo because it's not made out of bamboo, right? It's made out of composite. And they don't want to deal with all the turned legs. A lot of people just want to be able to get sheets of something put on a router, some that can be programmed on a CNC, and then put together by an assembler. Okay, and one of the problems that I see today is that we have too many assemblers, you know, and Paul, you're probably gonna understand this more than anyone, but these are people that, while they're not, you need assemblers, right? It's important to have people that are like junior cabinet makers, junior furniture makers, all this kind of stuff. It's really important to have people that have been in the shit, right? The people that have designed things and built things that are really complex and really difficult to make and have failed and just scrapped projects. It's really important to have that experience. And I don't think enough people have that today. Like I said, if you look at, let's talk about a few other things real quick. If you look at automobiles today, every automobile, if you just paint them all white, you can't tell one from the other. They all look the same, right? And the reason for this is because there's only a couple companies making cars, right? And there's only a couple companies making the components for all these cars, right? So it's very easy for a manufacturer of anything to go to the people that are making the product and say, hey, I'm looking to make this. And then they say, well, hey, I've already got this thing here. Let's just tweak it just a tiny bit and then you can use it. It won't hardly cost you anything. You know, so people aren't doing the design side well enough. They're just kind of taking a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of that and then putting it together and trying to call it their own. And so it's a real problem. And it's also a problem in the movie industry. If anyone's into movies, I think everyone at this point remembers Lord of the Rings, a big movie, you know, from when I was a kid. But Lord of the Rings is huge, right? And the author, his name's J.R.R. Tolkien, and he was in World War I. And this is a guy, I believe he went to Oxford, if I remember correctly. But this guy just had all kinds of shit go on in his life, you know, and he experienced a lot of stuff and he understood what hell was really like, you know, dealing with, you know, being in the trenches in World War I. And everyone's heard the term shell shock. That comes from the artillery shells coming in and just rocking all of these areas where they're having trench warfare. I mean, this guy had been in some really nasty shit. And those terrible experiences allowed him to create this thing that everybody in the world loves, which is the Lord of the Rings saga, right? He did the similarity. I mean, he created languages, and I mean, it's just really wild stuff. And it came from this guy just being exposed to so much craziness, you know, and even if it was in a short period of time, it's just kind of wild, you know. And so I think that's kind of what we're lacking a little bit today is I don't think enough people have just experienced much. And it's not a dig on anyone, but how many people have been to, you know, like I said, my wife's from India, but how many people have been to another country and with the purpose of looking at the architecture, you know, checking out the historical landmarks, looking at, you know, what makes that culture what it is, right? The colors, the materials, the shapes, the geology, all these kind of things. This is what creates a design, you know, and again, this might be, you know, people might not dig this necessarily, but when we create furniture, and when we create, especially hardware, I take in all kinds of elements. Like I had tons of brass to all my furniture, and in ways that most people don't add to their furniture. Like I literally line entire panels of my furniture with brass. Like it's a big deal. The hardware is of course brass, everyone kind of knows that, you know, but I mean, we go above and beyond. We do curved brass on things. We do crazy pucks and discs and different kinds of shapes, in different kinds of metals, anodized metals. And we do all these things because it creates a look that other people aren't doing, you know, and it's because like when my wife's from India, she'll look at palaces over there that were made thousands of years ago. And these things that are created over there, the design and the motifs that they use they're almost like otherworldly. If you look at them today, they're very cool. And I think we need more people doing that, where it's one thing to see it in a book and it's one thing to like see it here on YouTube. It's a whole other thing to be there. You know, there's that great line in Good Will Hunting where Robin Williams is talking to Matt Damon. He's talking about how Matt Damon, you know, talks about how he's seen the Sistine Chapel, and Robin Williams is basically saying to him like, yeah, but have you been there? Like, do you really understand what it took to create that thing? Have you ever looked up there and seen it? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, there's just my worry is that there aren't enough people today that are doing the thing that they're designing, you know, and I could be way out of bounds here. I may even not know what I'm talking about, but I think there's a big chasm between the engineer, right? And sometimes the designer and the engineer are the same thing. And when I worked at aerospace, they were the same thing. They were called interior engineers. And anyway, I'm concerned that the person that is doing all that design work isn't actually building the thing that they're designing. And it's not saying you have to. I get there has to be a little bit of a separation, but when we make furniture, we are actually building it, and we've handled 10,000 pieces of vintage furniture. I don't know how many doors I've remade, drawers I've remade, learning how to make old school finials and things like that, but I cast mine, right? I'm learning to make molds, learning to do all these different kinds of crafts to develop a piece of furniture. And that's what I think is going on with design today. I don't think there's enough people that have experienced the thing it is they're designing, and again, I could be way off, and I don't know if that even makes sense to people, but anyway, that's how I'm coming from. So okay, I'll look at comments here. I'll talk more about design. There's a lot of things I wanted to talk about. Like someone said to me the other day that McDonald's are looking horrible these days. I wasn't quite sure what the hell he was talking about. He was talking about it's like, remember when the McDonald's had all the colors, and they'd have the big, like the ball pits and the slides and all the like the fun rooms and stuff like that. But then they would have these big like jungle gyms and things like that on the outside of the buildings, right? But again, all the color, and it was like, yeah, there might have been 10,000 of those things around, but they're still colorful. And you look at it now, and all the McDonald's are gray. They're all gray, and yeah, you've got the the orange arch, yellow arch, whatever color the big M is, but they all just don't look like anything. It's not they look bad; they just don't look like anything. And that's not what it's supposed to be about. When you design something, when you make something, it better speak to you, and it sure as shit better speak to somebody else, right? Because otherwise, what are you doing? It's especially if you're in the furniture making space, you're making things for other people. If it doesn't speak to speak to society, like what are you doing? So okay, I'm done ranting. Okay, I'm gonna go with my comments here, and we'll continue. So okay, so Mike's in here, for example, on a car design. Once a manufacturer finds something that's well like they run, yeah, and I mean that's kind of what I'm saying. It's not that that's not a bad thing, right? I mean, we all kind of do a little bit of that, but the problem is like they beat it into the frickin' ground. It's like when Disney bought Marvel and they made that first Iron Man movie, they were like, oh shit, this is what everybody wants. And then for the last 4 years, we've got nothing but the same fucking movie over and over and over. And the formula is exactly the same. Like the style of what these movies looks like is exactly the same. And now it's basically dead. Like nobody wants to see these movies anymore, and people are just over it. They, Disney could have put out a couple of these movies, a year, for the next 20 years. But no, they had to put out 10 of them a year because they just had to try and suck up as much as they could. And again, it's the same thing with cars. And when I was talking about furniture, Mike, specifically credenzas, like credenzas were the thing that I just noticed. It looked like it got really bad there for a while. It was like people were doing, what do they call that, river table fronts on things, and then you'd see like stick-on designs. They'd put on all the doors, so they all kind of looked like a big picture. It just got to a point where it's just like, what is this stuff? It doesn't even look like it's made. It looks like it's put together by a computer and made by a robot. And there's just like you could see that there was no passion in the design. You could sense that nobody put any thought into making this. It's like they just threw an image into Grok and said, hey Grok, what kind of credenza would people buy? What would be the most popular credenza? What's the most palatable credenza? These kind of things. And that's what they popped out. And we just saw this stuff for so long. And I see it today. I see it all over freaking Instagram. Like the stuff that people make, again, I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but again, like as someone who hand makes everything and works an insane amount to do it, like you could spot something that was made by a computer, and you could spot something that was made over and over again. Like it just starts to look homogenized. Homogenized is real. I mean, everyone knows what that word is, but it looks homogenized. They all look the same, and it doesn't matter where you get it, where you buy it from. You'll see multiple websites selling the same thing, right? But like when you look at the furniture that Resplendent Crow sells, nobody sells faux bamboo furniture. Nobody, unless it's vintage, right? And you'll see people try and make it, but the proportions are all fucked up because they don't actually know how to make anything. The people that design the furniture for Wayfair and I mean any of these companies, like they just have no sense of proportion. The faux bamboo is like really thick or the faux bamboo will have way too many knuckles, or the leg will be too big for the cabinet. It's just you name it. And the issue, in my opinion, is that people just haven't made enough furniture. I mean, they just haven't made anything. It's like, how? Of course, you're never going to know what anything is supposed to look like if you've never actually built it, or if you've never put it together at kind of a minimum. So anyway, yeah, Mike, I see what you're saying. They just beat that stuff to death. Yeah, exactly. You already said, yeah, they run the design to death. And yeah, it's cool. And again, more power to you. Like, I would do the same thing to a certain degree, but what we'll do is if we find something that works, we're always going to make that thing, but that gives us the capital to then go make the next thing. And so we're constantly adding lines of furniture and taking things out that don't work. I mean, it's just you're constantly turning it over. And man, it's expensive, but when people see our stuff, like, they're just wowed like crazy. They just love our furniture. I mean, you know how many people have told me they've waited years to get my furniture. You know, the furniture is way better than they ever could have possibly imagined. You know, and I've had people that tell me that my stuff's garbage. Like, how many people are going to tell you that, right? Like, I've had customers that have bought my furniture and they've seen it and they've just been like, oh, this is so overpriced. This wasn't worth the money. Like, oh, this is like an $800 cabinet. Like, trust me, I've heard it all. And fortunately, most of the time it's really good feedback. But every now and again, you get that person that can't be pleased. And go back and listen to my conversation about trying to sell to people that can barely afford your furniture. Trust me, you'll never make those people happy. Okay, hi, do you remember me? Who's this? Alex Hutch. Alex, to be honest, Alex, no, I don't, but I might, you know, depending on the things that you tell me. I'm not great with names. I remember Mike because he's always on here. Paul, I've talked to Paul. I believe he was a contractor. I've talked to him. So I start to remember people, but it takes a while. I'm not the brightest bulb in the box or the sharpest knife in the block, as they say. I'll just flat out admit it. Okay, let's see, Paul, how come you say I might not even know what I'm talking about? Well, because, you know, hell, everyone suffers from a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? It's not, okay, maybe I should backtrack there. I've said it before, like, I'll take the furniture challenge with anyone. I'm a fantastic furniture maker. And we design great stuff. And the way that I know we design great stuff is because we've been in business for almost 9 years at this point, you know. So you don't get to do that having a factory and lots of employees by not making good stuff, right? But one person's trash is another person's treasure, right? Something that I really like, another person might not. But there are enough people that like certain pieces that we make that they become bread and butter pieces, right? I've talked about it. If you go to the resplendentcrow.com, you know, Google Zane Credenza, again, that's a thing that, you know, makes me $200,000 to $300,000 a year in revenue. You know, the faux bamboo vanities that we make, we got like 3 or 4 different variants. But again, that's another thing, $200,000 to $300,000 in revenue just making those pieces of furniture. And you need that kind of stuff to stay in business because trying to make one-off furniture all the time, like, I don't care what anybody says, man, that's a tough way to make a living. And I'm dealing with that right now because it seems like everyone and their brother wants all this custom shit. And I love making it, but at a certain point, you just get drowned in not just work, but you just get drowned in racking your brain to figure out how to make this stuff, you know? Because the truth is that, yeah, I have drawings and I have models for a lot of stuff, but when you're custom making things, basically I'm taking an old design and I'm just retrofitting it in my head. I'll print off the drawing, I'll put it, you know, in my area where I'm working, but I'm just scratching out dimensions, putting in new dimensions, you know, wrapping my brain about, you know, what dados go where, you know, maybe this rabbit has to be elongated or moved, you know, or maybe, you know, I got to make, you know, different kinds of frame and panels, and this is actually just a frame. This one's going to be a frame and panel. Anyway, I just do it all in my head. When you have like 6 or 7 cabinets going at one time, it just wipes you out. And it's hard to focus on production as well when you have all these custom projects. And I mean, you got, man, Paul, I'm preaching to the choir with you. I'm sure you know all about this shit. You know, if you're doing, you know, renos and properties and stuff like that. I mean, it'd be like having a whole bunch of rooms. You know, you got 3 or 4 houses going, and you know, you're like, well, what freaking bathroom does this go to? And then, well, no, it's the other bathroom in the other house, and it can really just add up, you know. So yeah, I do know what I'm talking about, but we also have, you know, our hardware line. Like, you go to Resplendent Crow, just look up hardware. All that hardware is made, we make it in India, right? My wife's from India. We have a couple manufacturers over there that make stuff for us, but all the designs are ours. We made all those, you know. So my wife took a lot of the inspiration for her pieces from places like the Taj Mahal, right? These different palaces that are over in India. There's a whole bunch of, we have a book, and it literally has like, I don't know, it's probably got like 20 or 30 of these palaces in this book. And we've literally looked at the pictures in here, and we've just like gotten shapes or really cool like designs and different kinds of motifs that are in these books. And we've used those to help us create different kinds of hardware, and people like it. So some of the hardware that we sell, like all my most of my faux bamboo furniture uses our faux bamboo hardware. And we're the only people that make this faux bamboo hardware. And so people buy it from us. We sell it wholesale as well. But we get lots of people buying it, and that's bread and butter. I mean, and the margin on that stuff is insane, guys. It's wild. I mean, you're talking like something that costs $5 that you sell for 80. And again, I don't have to make it. I just have to buy it in quantities of 100 and import it in here and then turn around and sell it. So that kind of stuff's great, but you have to find a design that people really like. And what happens is your design style over the years starts to build on itself, right? So my wife started out in faux bamboo, but then she got into a little more chinoiserie type furniture. Companies like White and Meebane and Mastercraft and American of Martinsville, they created some really cool furniture that had some nice chinoiserie, kind of Hollywood Regency type elements. And we just started selling that stuff over the years, and it turned into where that's the stuff that we started making. We would start incorporating those elements into our own furniture. One of the popular pieces of furniture that we sold for a long time was a Greek key credenza that was made by Thomasville. Very rare piece of furniture, very hard to find. But anyway, I designed the entire Greek key furniture line that we sell off of that one piece of furniture. And granted, we don't use a lot of their elements, but like the offsets. So one of the really cool things about that piece of furniture is the doors and the drawers set back about 3/4 of an inch from the frame. Very unique looking piece of furniture. So I did incorporate that element, and their Greek key that they put all along that stuff. I designed my own Greek key, but it's very similar in style. But like the roundedness of it and all the other stuff, like I don't have anything to do with it. I don't like that style. But we take these popular pieces of furniture and we take elements from them as all of the other things that we do in our life, and we incorporate that stuff into our furniture designs. And I think that's why we make really cool furniture. And what I see today, and this is gonna be really unpopular, and then I'll get back to comments, is what I see a lot of people doing today especially on Instagram, and it's so popular, guys, but even on YouTube, like these freaking YouTube woodworkers, like the stuff that I made an amazing ash desk, and you'll get 1 million views on it, which is cool, but nobody's buying an ash desk, guys. Like it's just not happening. No one's buying that shit. And if you do find someone to make it, it's going to be a one-off type customer, and then you're back to what I was telling you. You're back to making furniture every time in a one-off situation. And it's great if you got YouTube money, from views and things like that. But if you're going to make something that's your own, that is designed and that people really like, it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of trial and error and just a ton of failure. Like, guys, I can't even tell you how many pieces of furniture I've built. My wife literally calls me the furniture maker that makes furniture that people don't want to buy. Like, that's how much furniture I've made that my wife's just like, no one's going to buy that shit. And she has to come in and fix it, change the proportions, take away certain elements that I love that aren't feminine or that people aren't really going to like. And that's how we make our furniture, So I don't know if this is a good conversation, but this is just the real deal. This is how we design furniture. And I don't see enough people making furniture that are also designing furniture. It's always some kind of goofball project that someone makes for themselves on YouTube that nobody else would ever buy. And we can't do that as a furniture maker that has a production-based furniture company. We have to turn over furniture. Like, I can't just sell $10,000 credenzas and sit in my shop and whittle away and make, I'm going to make a piece of furniture and I'm going to turn every leg and I'm going to carve every foot and make $10,000. Like, I'd fucking go, I would be hungry. Like, I wouldn't be able to survive. Like, it wouldn't pay my rent, So you have to be able to turn that over and create things that people really like. So I'm going right. Okay. What do we got coming in here? Mike is saying, okay, empty imagination. Hope we make something that sticks, but also you personally are considerably above average in ability, and not everyone can see things. Yeah, well, but it's all. I mean, you got to put it in perspective, Mike. The person that's doing the fabricating is not necessarily the person behind the design, and while a lot of it is me designing things, it's also my wife and her experience in all the places that she's been. And truth is that my wife has traveled much more than I have. Like, she's seen all kinds of stuff, and honestly, she looks to be inspired. It's really weird, she actually looks for things, and she'll just send me designs, so, oh, I really like this flower. I wonder if we could make some hardware that looks like this flower. I mean, shit like that. And then I got to figure out how to get that into a DXF file over to my guy in India. So it's not all me. Like, the way I approach furniture design, I mean, if I had to like try and distill it down in very simple terms, is I generally make things in thirds, which is not my idea. Some other person came up with that idea, but that's generally the most important thing, I think, when it comes to making furniture. You don't often want to have pieces of furniture that have 4 doors. 4 doesn't look right. You really want to have 3. Unless you're putting a bank of drawers in the middle, you can get away with 2. But even numbers aren't generally good unless you're dealing with feet, and you want 4 feet on a cabinet that's, 60 inches. That makes sense. It gets a little bit longer. You might need 5 feet or 6 if you count the back. So I tend to think of things in thirds. Even when I'm dimensioning, when I dimension things other than standard, like 2-inch, rails and stiles and things like that, I tend to make things in 3/8 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. We do 3/4 on things, but not face things. Thicknesses are generally 3/4, but again, I do a lot of things in like 3/8 and 5/8, and that's something that's really helped me. Like my legs for my faux bamboo furniture, 1 7/8 in diameter. They're not 2 inches. It would be easier to make it in 2 inches, but the truth is that then my stuff would look like everyone else is having their shit made overseas. But we don't do that. We do 1 7/8, and it's a little bit more feminine, which is, men aren't going to want to hear that, but that little leg is a little bit more petite than what everyone else is making, and it works. Our faux bamboo, again, it's 5/8 of an inch thick, and it's 7/8 if you go to the big stuff. So anyway, these are things that I've done with my furniture design, things that I do that have helped us to curate a collection of furniture and design furniture that people seem to really like, and has helped us to grow this company. So I don't do a lot of whole numbers. Like, there's just not a lot of that, which sucks when you have to remake things. But hopefully I have a drawing and some kind of a CAD that I can go back and reference, or I have the piece here because it didn't sell. I can I can go back and look at it because it's physically there. But the design thing is interesting, guys. I think in order to get really good at design, you have to look at the world from that perspective. You have to look at, like, how did they make this thing? What was the inspiration for this thing? And then you have to go make it. You got to go work with it. You got to work with the material. You got to see how things cut, how things smell, and then you got to sit back and you got to look at something. I don't know how many times I built something, and 100 times you just stand back and kind of look at it. You're like, these doors, they kind of look a little bit tall, or maybe there's, I got 3 doors here, but the face frame's off. I don't like that. Or the thickness of the top is 3/4, just too thin. We need 1 inch or whatever. It's just. It happens all the time, So, it's just, design is something that you just got to go do shit, And this might not resonate with people, but I think that's what you got to do. Like, you got to go try it out. You got to go cut some things, make some things, take some vintage furniture apart. Like, I don't know how many times I've taken furniture apart that's just been, whether it could be water damaged or it got damaged during transportation, and we just kind of look and see how things are made. Like a lot of your old furniture. Believe it or not, the legs are all put on with dowels. It's very, very common to see that. Not a lot of pocket screws back in the day. Things were built differently. Everything was a frame and panel, which is why I make all my furniture today. Everything's frame and panel construction. We don't do any of that, 3-inch runners running all over the cabinet. We don't do a lot of triangle blocking, because the truth is that if the basis of your cabinet is all, everything's either a tenon or it's a dado, or a rabbet, rabbet dado tenons, these kind of things. You don't need a lot of that extra fluff. You can make a really solid piece of furniture that will last, longer than the people that own it. But you got to take time to do that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff I think of when I'm designing. I try and design everything. One of the things I do when I design furniture, like I said, I didn't talk about, is I make all of my furniture with the intent that it has to be held together with no glue, no screws, nothing, right? It has to be joined in such a way that it can stand on its own without anything. And if you have a carcass that can do that, you're moving in the right direction, but if you have to run a pocket screw, like, you've failed. If if you got butt joints and things like, you've failed. If you have, I'm trying to think what other kind of joints I see. If you have a bunch of, if you got a bunch of 3-inch runners, running into an end, you got a 3-inch runner that runs into an end panel, but that, again, that runner's only 3 inches, like, that cabinet's never going to stay, it's just flimsy, right? Whereas if you have a framing panel that runs the length of the end panel, 15, 18 inches, when that thing gets in there, provided you got a good joint, the thing's going to hold stout, it's going to hold really tight. And when you put that cabinet together, just with, beat it together with a hammer, if it stands on its own, you're golden, and that's how I build all my furniture, and I've just always done it that way, and it's always worked out. No, none of my cabinets have ever fallen apart. I've had a couple doors fall off. I had a lady in New York send me pictures of 2 doors that fell off of one of my Zane credenzas. I was like, oh shit. So we literally, what do you do when that's a great sidebar. What do you do when your $7,000 credenza, the doors fall off of it? Brand spanking new, right? And some big New York high rise. What do you do? You build them a new piece of furniture, and then you send it. You build it right away. You send it back to New York, and you pick up the old one. You bring that one back. That's what you do. So, but that's kind of scary. But truth is, the customer was happy. They were pissed that the doors fell off, but they were actually. It's funny, they were mad that the door fell off, but they were actually super impressed and blown away by the fact that we literally just built them a brand new piece of furniture, delivered it into their home, and took the old one away. They were super happy. So you can when it seems like you got a problem, you can create a happy customer out of the situation. So anyway, I think it's probably long enough talk for today. That's what we got, 36 minutes. I gotta get back to building freaking dressers. So I will have another talk for tomorrow. And I hope everyone has a great day and get out and enjoy the nice weather.